Hi friends, Shaina Bilow here. In today's video, I'm going to demonstrate how to work the star stitch here, which is a really interesting textural and colorful pattern. It's worked over 3 stitches with 1 stitch in between each star. And if you look below, I've written out the patterns for you both in the round and worked back and forth. And I'll be demonstrating both of them in this video. The star stitch is a really fun stitch that I like to do in multiple colors, even in single colors, and it's just really pretty the way it looks like a firework or a star or even a little flower sometimes, depending on your perspective, of course. But I do find myself turning to this stitch over and over again in my designs because it's so fun. So let's learn it together. To work the star stitch, right here with slip stitches in between, you're going to, on your right side row, create little segments of 3 stitches that are separated by slip stitches. So I am, over these 3 stitches, going to knit in my star color, and then over the center of this previous star stitch I'm going to slip a stitch purlwise. So my needle goes into this stitch purlwise and it slides over to the other needle. It slips purlwise so it won't be twisted on the next row. So it's sitting in the appropriate positioning. So we're knitting 3, slipping 1, knitting 3, slip 1, knit 3, slip 1, always purlwise, in this case with the yarn to the back of the work, knit 3, slip 1, knit 3, slip 1. That is your first row for the star stitch. For the second row of star stitch, we're going to work across the row, working stars over every 3 of the star color stitches and slipping the single stitch, the slip stitch, purlwise, this time with the yarn in the front of us, towards us. So I've slipped my first stitch. Here I am ready for the star stitch. The star stitch is worked as follows. You're going to insert your right hand needle down all 3 stitches of the star stitch, wrap the yarn around the needle for purl, and then bring the needle up through all 3 stitches, but do not take them off of the left hand needle. Then you are going to take the working yarn and wrap it across the right hand needle and all the way around for a yarn over. So I'm going to show you that again. My yarn is in the front here. I'm taking it to the right in front of the needle, coming full circle around that right hand needle so that the yarn ends up in the front again. And my final step here is going to be to purl these 3 stitches together again. And ta-da! I now have 3 stitches on the right needle. I can remove the star stitch group from the left hand needle. So I'm taking 3 stitches, working into them, and then they still remain the 3 stitch count there. So I'm slipping the slip stitch or the odd colored stitch, going into the 3 star stitches, wrapping for purl, coming on up, yarning over, and then going through all 3 again as a purl. So we have 1, 2, 3 on the right hand needle. These 3 can come off. And I slip a stitch again. Now I'll show you in Continental style. So in Continental style, my yarn is in the front. I'm coming down the 3 stitches, swing the yarn over, come on up to purl the 3 together. For the yarn over, I'm wrapping my yarn over the front and top and then back around to the bottom of the right hand needle, and then I purl those 3 together again and take that off. Yarn in the front as I slip the stitch. That way this float doesn't come to the front of the work. So it's purl 3 together, yarn over, and purl 3 together to create the star stitch. So they don't look like much at the moment, but once you start knitting your next row, in the contrasting color or the main color, whichever you're calling it here, the stitches do slide into place a little bit more comfortably and create that star look that we're seeing. Or the little flower. We all have a different perspective here on what it looks like. I kind of think it looks like a little firework or a firecracker. I'll show you after this row. The stars really pop there. To work the star stitch in the round, we're going to begin by working our first round where we set up the placement for the star stitches. So in this case, it begins with a slip 1 purlwise and knit 3, slip 1 purlwise, knit 3, slip 1 purlwise, yarn and back, knit 3. So the setup is exactly the same as when you're working back and forth on rows. So you're going to create all these spaces for the star stitches. When you're ready for round 2, it's worked differently. Since we are looking at the right side of the work here when we work in the round, instead of working purl stitches for those stars, we're going to work knits. So the first step is to slip your slipped stitches, and then when you encounter your 3 star stitches, you're going to insert your needle into all 3 and knit them together. Do not take them off of the needle. Then you're going to work a yarn over onto your right hand needle and finally knit those 3 together again. So I now have 3 stitches on my right hand needle and I can take off the 3 from the left. Let me show you that in English style. I'm going to slip my stitch purlwise with the yarn in the back. And here I'm going to pull down on the fabric because sometimes it's a little hard to get into 3 stitches at once. And I'm going to insert my right hand needle into those 3 stitches. Then I'm going to wrap my yarn for knit. Come on out, but leave these stitches here. Then I'm going to wrap the yarn around the right hand needle for yarn over. So yarn over is wrapping the same way you would if you were knitting a stitch. Your needle just happens to not be inside a stitch. And then the final step of the star is to go into those 3 stitches again and knit them together. And then you can take those 3 off. So we slip the slip stitches, and then to work the star, it's knit 3 together, yarn over, and knit 3 together again. Slip 1, knit 3 together, yarn over, knit 1. And one more time in Continental. I'm going to knit these 3 together, wrap my yarn over, and then knit those 3 together again. And same as when we were working these stitches back and forth, the star doesn't really take its shape and look as glamorous until you work your next round after it. So here we go. Since I'm working all of my stitches from this direction, technically it's the same as working in the round. So even though I don't have a big tube of fabric here, I'm still technically working my stitches all from the right side. Just for this swatch. When you're working your project with this, you would have a lot of stitches all on the needle, joined in a tube. But here we go. That's the star stitch done in the round knitwise on that row. Happy knitting!